Hey Rollers, just before we get started today, just a couple of quick announcements. We have an Elemental Championship upcoming on March 30th at Top Deck Games. That's in Sunshine in lovely Victoria, Australia. So please make sure you check out Top Deck Games' Facebook page or the Australian Facebook page or the Australian Discord server for details. March 30th, please come. We want to make it as big and as exciting as possible for everyone. And for those of you who are in the Australian and Southeast Asian Discord League, please make sure that you get your results in this weekend, because you've got until Monday midnight to do so. Here's the pod.
Well, I don't know why I'm listening tonight. I got a feeling that the cards just ain't right. I'm so salty, must not give in to rage. And I'm wondering what those rollers will say. Scarves to the left of me, cheers to the right. Here I am, gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight.
G'day everybody, and welcome to another episode, roughly episode 31 of the Hidden City Roller Derby. Thanks, I'm your host Simcof, and I'm here as always joined by a motley crew of rollers. Butters is in the pod virtual house.
I am, in fact, in the pod virtual house. How are we all going?
And we also have the indomitable Bertram T. Toreadory.
I like how you don't know my name and you don't know what episode this is. Just keeping the lo-fi brand fucking intact.
Well, everyone's getting fancy microphones and stuff. You've got to get back to your roots somehow, eh?
That's right.
Yeah.
This audio quality is getting too good. So, at time of recording, Bert has just finished his round one Discord game. Tell us, what was the game? Who did you play? Why was it so damn exciting? Because I just watched it and I was holding on to the edge of my seat.
Well, it was I was playing Unicorn HMT against Crab with Lion Splash, which is a little unusual, with True Strike Kenjutsu, which pairs really well with a lot of the Crab characters. But it was actually a rematch. I was playing against Minnie, aka Jack from Western Australia. I played him in groups for the Global Discord League, but we got paired in round one, and it came down to the wire where the final play was a duel on Stronghold, where I had a Shinjo Shono with 11 skill, and I used a challenge on the fields against a Kisada with 8 skill. And I had 1 honor left, and the duel worked out such that if I lost any honor, I instantly died. If I won the duel, I would win the game with certainty. And if it was a tie, I would lose, or I lost the duel, I would lose the game slowly. So it was a bit of a weird bid situation.
And you're on 1 honor, right?
Yeah, so I had to if I bid 1 and he bids 1, I win the game. So he can't really bid 1 unless he thinks I'm going to bid higher to try and win the duel, in which case he can bid 1 and kill me by an honor loss. So it was like one of these situations where if we both bid 1 or we both bid 3 or 5 or whatever, I would win. And if he bid 1 and I bid any higher, or I bid 1 and he bid 5, I would lose. And it was like we sat there for about 5 minutes picking bids. It was crazy, man.
That is how every single
amazing.
duel should feel in this game.
And Jack had taken 4 of Bert's provinces.
Yeah, I was getting pummeled.
Thanks to Talzin.
He's a talented player. I don't think he made any grave errors.
Nah, Jack's real good. He routinely takes out first over here. He's one of the top guys. He's a good player.
So we are deep in round 1 of the Australian and Southeast Asian Discord League. There's been a little bit of teething problems as we're just making sure everybody migrates across to the Australian Discord League server to get people's pairings up and running, but it seems to be going okay now. We've got lots of messages pinned and we've organised the channel, so it's pretty easy to tell where your matches are and all those sorts of things. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. We've actually managed to get almost 40 players, which is a lot more. I think we had just like 21 or something last season.
Yeah, it's about where we peaked. Season 2 we had 42, so that's peak L5R.
Yeah. What I found interesting as well is that obviously the non-Australian players are new, but if you look at the Australian players, it's both a good and a bad thing. Yes, there's some folk from Australia that have played in previous seasons, but we have a lot of people that are Australian players that didn't play last season that are playing this season. And I think that's really,
I think
cool.
that's just a positive. I think, yeah. New blood, even if you're losing
Really,
old
really.
blood, is better because then you got growth, some sort of growth.
Yeah. No, it's
So,
good to see the
that's net positive. We do have a little bit of controversy corner to talk about. So, and this is, I guess, in the interest of fairness, and we want to make sure that as a podcast, and a loyal audience, we want to make sure that when we're involved with something that we don't shy away from anything that's happened. We recently cast a elemental championship for that wasn't in Australia a couple of weeks ago, and then I was actually solo casting it. Ended up getting re-commentated by other folk, but I definitely didn't pick up any of the stuff that went on. But it looked like there was some untoward play that happened, and people on all the social media streams caught it. And essentially, there was a particular game on stream. Video was caught. There was 3 sort of shady moves by one of the players. The first one was province swapping. Now, I think, Bert, you kind of got a good detail on what the province swapping issue was. Do you want to just describe what that province swapping issue was?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it an issue. I just call it flat out cheating. But the player, I have a strong opinion about cheating, but the player swapped his face down provinces, their locations, and then also swapped the cards that were laying in his provinces during Mulligan, which of course is not, prescribed in the rules as something you can do. So,
yeah. So I think this particular one, there were 3 different issues, and we'll just quickly cover what the 3 issues were, and we'll kind of talk through how, because I guess there's some things that are excusable and some things that are just like pretty clear cut. The second one was halfway through the game. He paid paid a fate for his manipulator, but that fate somehow ended back up in his fate pool. So he just basically got a free manipulator, which is pretty good. And then the third one is there was, depending on how you look at it, there was an alleged shallow shuffle. Do you understand what a shallow shuffle is, Bert or Nate?
I realize I think it's a shuffle that's attempting to look like you're shuffling the deck when really you're keeping 1 or 2 cards like close to the top of the deck, right?
Yeah, you're keeping a cluster in one spot. You know where you're going.
Yeah. So look, we're purposely not naming names here because you can, if you really want to, you can Google it. It's not hard, but we don't want to witch hunt. It's not really our field, but we do want to cover this because it is something that's happened in the community, and we want to kind of then talk about how, if this stuff like this is happening at your local tournament, ways that can be dealt with it. So let's just quickly cover off of those 3 issues.
Fight to the death.
What's kind of, what's okay, what's sloppy, and what's straight out, just not on. So province swapping, thoughts on that? Is that something that one can do on accident, or is it deliberate? Like, what are your thoughts?
The marshal of the event called that particular incident a quote sloppy mulligan, which I just think is just a misnomer because a mulligan doesn't allow you to ever swap the locations of your provinces once you've seen your cards from your deck. So it's just stepping outside the bounds of what a mulligan is. So it's not really a mulligan.
I mean, if I was really reaching, I could see how if your local play casual rules were consistently fairly chill about that, and you always play a certain way, and he'd just forgotten and then moved them, like, maybe, but just when you watch the video, it just looks so quick and premeditated, and just...
And the player in question isn't a newbie to L5R. He was a finalist at PAX, which was a CotE with 70 players.
So let's leave the player's name out of it and just talk about it conceptually and just say that this player knows what he's doing.
Like, it makes a big difference, look at it that way. Moving a province around like that, I mean, all these things together are what make it look super bad, right? It wasn't just one thing. And it's the fact that if the provinces were accidentally moved to a different spot, right, they're moving to an accidental optimal spot. Like, it's not accidentally onto something garbage, it's accidentally in exactly where you want it.
Yeah, so I think with the province swapping, that's the one for me where I have thought about it long and hard, and I just, I am certainly not a OP representative or anything like that, but to me, that one was just flat out dishonest play, and I was really offended to see that. I thought that was, that was not a good look. Now, the second one, the fate, the old fate trick, right? So this one here, from my perspective, there's kind of if this was an isolated event, I can see that like, I've made mistakes around accidentally, moving Fate into the wrong spot. That one there, like, I feel in the heat of the moment when you're on stream, if you're a fidgety person or you're just under pressure because it's a big game, and sometimes, these larger events feel like that. I could forgive that if it was an isolated incident. I've seen that happen before. It's certainly something you want to pick up pretty quickly and you want to correct. But that was my perspective. What are your thoughts on the old Fate trivia?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Oh, look, for me, watching that game. I mean, first of all, if you're going to cheat, don't do it. Don't stream it. It's an important rule. But that manipulator thing was a one-cost character, and when you watch it happen, that Fate get held. He sort of grabs the two, moves the guy over, holds them in the middle for a little while together, and then sort of goes, oh, yeah, and then he moves over, puts one over there, and moves the other one back into his Fate pool. Like, it just like the first one, it just seemed too smooth to not be on purpose. I mean, I'm no psychic. I can't read the guy's mind, but that's the one that to me just looked like out cheating. Like,
well, I think that second incident, if it were isolated, like Ben said, then I've seen people make those mistakes before, like overpaying or underpaying for a card. It is always funny to me how these mistakes, when they get caught on stream, they get brushed or under the carpet as mistakes, never are at the detriment to the player who's making the mistakes. They're always beneficial, which I always find kind of humorous. But yeah, I think as an isolated thing, I could just say, oh man, maybe you just forgot. But in that, given the previous, cheating, I'm going to call it cheating because that's what I think it is, then you kind of err towards it also being cheating, right?
Particularly right. when it's a cluster of them like that.
Yeah. Now, the alleged shallow shuffle, I understand some people have looked at it. I kind of had a quick squiz at it, and I could see how it'd be construed as that. But I'm not a top decking bottom shuffler, so I saw it, but it's not as so I couldn't see the advantage you got out of it, but I guess there could be some advantage. I've certainly watched some videos of Magic the Gathering players and seen the amazing way that they can manipulate, like a Magic the Gathering cheater can manipulate their deck. I have no idea what happened in this particular case, but in general, I think that if you are doing something that deliberately manipulates your deck and makes sure that you can get, a card or the cards you need in a certain spot, or the cards you don't need at the bottom of your deck, that's, dodgy AF in my book.
Yeah, I'd just say if you're ever concerned, or just out of good practice, just always cut or shuffle your opponent's deck to avoid that sort of shit.
Yeah. So just wrapping up just before we get into like a kind of a higher talk, a higher level talk on this, there was just in terms of the events that happened, there was a judge because this was discovered all after the event. It's kind of, and it happened in an early round game. It's the player didn't go on to win a tournament. Certainly, I think he didn't even win the game, but certainly if that player had gone on to win the tournament or, had knocked players out and, his result had affected the tournament, the judge is in a much, much harder spot and needs to, it's very, very hard to do things after the fact. So it's kind of really annoying. But in this particular case, the judge ruled that it was sloppy play and put out fairly quickly, acted on it pretty quickly, put out a pretty big post. Some people thought it was a pretty weak ruling. Some people thought that it was a great display of considered thought. I think that to me the challenge here is what does a TO do when post a tournament something like this happens? And I mean, my opinion is that you would want to the first thing that I think is you immediately talk to organised play. So this is if it's a premier level event, right? So if you've got an EC, a CotE, a Grand CotE, any event that's like one of the proper events, then you go talk to OP immediately and just go, hey, this is the situation. That's my gut. And then those are the folk that know how to deal with it. I think if it's a local tournament, there's a different conversation to be had. But what are your thoughts on contacting OP, or would you make a gut call, just get into it and make a unilateral decision?
I think it depends what's going on. It depends on the magnitude. I mean, if it's something that you could very, very justifiably say could have just been a series of sus mistakes, then okay, like maybe deal with it yourself. But I mean, bear in mind, even if they were just sus mistakes, you don't keep whatever prizes you've got. You don't keep your position. Like you retcon whatever you've got out of that tournament in particular. And as soon as it's a repeat offence, like more than one event, then the hammer has to come down. Like is my feeling. I'm all for second chances, particularly if there's doubt. But there was a guy. Star Wars Destiny recently had a guy who was shuffling like Darth Vader lightsabers. I don't play the game, but and that was a huge event. And that dude, I don't play, but that was on stream. But that was a huge thing, and that was within FFG's OP stuff. And that dude, as I understand it, on the life ban. That's it. He's done.
Yeah, and there was a Conquest. There was a classic Conquest video that you can see where a guy is consistently drawing an extra card every turn, and it's the most blatant cheating I've ever seen. But he was so good at it that it was like in a final on a huge, like a very, very like a stream that had thousands of people watching it. And it wasn't caught until well after, where someone slowed down the video and went, "Look what that guy's doing."
I mean, I suppose what confuses me so much is I don't fucking understand. Like any of these games, why do it? If you want to cheat, play Monopoly, right? That game's built for it. But like that's what it is. Monopoly's all about cheating and divorce. It ruins relationships. But no, but like don't be on video like all these people are. Like these are the people that break into houses and like fall through the roof and sue the owner. Like it's the same sort of weird, daft fucking thought process. Like if you're going to cheat, at least be good enough at it not to get busted and keep yourself on camera.
Can I just say, like this? I'm not a fan of witch hunting like an individual person or group of players or whatever, especially if it's a one-off event. Like this is at the moment. This is just one event that we have video of. But I would like to say some stuff. First of all, I think that the ruling... I mean, the Marshal made the ruling for those that were at the event, and that's the only people that he has to factor in when he makes that ruling, and it was after the fact, like you said. So I think the ruling was super, super soft, and there is a bit of a conflict of interest there. Also, the main... I'm not really upset about the incident. What I want is for FFG to come out with like clear floor rules in these sorts of situations. And also, I actually wanted the community to be a little bit more outraged and condemn that sort of behavior. And I don't mean that person specifically, because it seemed like there were two groups of people. Some people condemning the behavior, and some people saying, "Well, he's a nice guy." And I don't think that I think nice people can sometimes cheat in the heat of the moment or whatever. And so I don't want to.
Ted Bundy was a super nice guy, right? He was really charismatic.
But I wanted more of a outcry from the community. That's what I wanted to see, because we should be better than that. That's a fucking magic. That's the domain of Magic the Gathering, right? Yeah. We're a better community than that. Yeah. We should call that shit out.
And look, I think that if you're the player involved, or if you're a player who does get caught doing some shady things, don't like. I think the thing to go is like. Yeah, you know what? You might take a hit to your reputation, but take it as a learning moment and go, hold on, why am I doing this? Like, is so much of my identity wrapped up in a game that I feel like I have to be shady, I've got to draw an extra card, I've got to, do whatever it is that you do to get the upper hand. And just try and figure out why you're doing that, and maybe consider, why you're playing this game. Like, play the game to have fun, play the game because you're competitive, but, what satisfaction is there in winning a competitive card game when deep down inside that you didn't play within the rules? Like I just think like you need to really examine that thing. It doesn't make you a bad like I think the big thing is like it doesn't make you an inherently bad person if you do this stuff. It makes you an idiot.
You could right? I could conceive of the nicest guy in the world getting caught up in the heat of the moment and really wanting to win a game and not even like doing it unthinkingly. I could see that happening.
Hey, look, and let's be honest here. We did have a tournament where 3 Hatamotos were caught cheating, including myself, in the first round. I did have a charge and a
that wasn't intentional. You guys are just dickheads.
So, like, I'm just saying, like, it happens to the least of us.
Can I say though? I think though, probably I know you mentioned, but you think it was pretty light on as far as the ruling was concerned. But I think I wouldn't mind betting a lot of that comes down to how tight-knit the Five Rings community is, because it's not an enormous community, and everybody knows everybody else, particularly at the higher levels of play, and anyone that's social, you know what I mean? Anybody that goes out of their way plays into Goku a lot, and that's a lot harder to rule against when you know there's going to be some backblow one way or the other.
You don't want the game to implode because... Well, there's two things, right? You don't want the game to implode because of one isolated incident and get like lots of bad press, but by the same token, you don't want to be part of a community that encourages that either.
That's it.
I think to Bert's point, I think you make a really, really good point, which is if I put myself in that TO shoe, why was my first instinct to contact OP? Well, my first instinct to contact OP was because the current floor rules, tournament rules that exist don't really tell me how to deal with a situation like this in any way. They're not very clear at all. So I think that is definitely a challenge. If there are clear things which say judge has discretion, he should DQ on these things, then it's very clear because it actually gives you some authority as a judge, and not only authority, but some validation you're doing things right. Because you're going, hey, look,
the book of law
we've looked at this, and hey, player, unfortunately, well, the case is that you've broken these rules in the tournament guidelines. Therefore, the tournament guidelines say, because I need to be fair to everybody, we need to make sure that the guidelines apply to everyone. Therefore, unfortunately, for this thing, we've got to give you a game loss, or we've got to disqualify you from the tournament, or whatever it says, right? But I think having a very clear way of saying how you deal with these situations makes it a lot easier, right? And because it's much harder when things are grey to make rulings as.
I found it quite shocking, to be honest, that the marshal ruled that he would not have even issued a game loss if he had found it on the day, let alone DQ. And then the community kind of said, "Oh yeah, that's fair enough." Like he wrote out 3 paragraphs, so stand by the ruling. And that's what kind of irked me more than the actual incidents of game manipulation, because that's going to fucking happen. We're playing a game. At some point, someone's going to get duped out of a situation. But I just want people... What I would like is philosophically people to say no to that shit. And that doesn't mean going and knocking on this door's house and calling this guy's house and calling names. No. That means, look, man, you made a mistake. Own up to it, maybe. In the future... your opponent's going to be looking at you anyway, so I don't know, I felt like it could have been handled a lot better. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, to be clear, we don't have any, or at least I'm pretty sure we don't have any hard feelings against any of these folks. We just think that, maybe they're, it's really hard to say, but I guess we wanted to bring light to the fact that these things happen, so we need to look at how we can make it better next time.
Can I also say, if I were marshalling an event and my friend had come into question for that stuff, my instinct would be to be more lean on the side of being more punitive. Like if there's a borderline case, I'd be like, dude, I have to apply the rules equally to everyone, and because you're my friend, I'm going to have to actually apply them even harder. Because
that's kind of hard to believe, to be honest, though, because you're such a genteel soul.
Dude, if you cheat in my tournament, butters, so I'm gonna bring you to the guillotine if you cheat in one of my tourneys, mate. I'm gonna put you in the pillory.
When I cheat in your tournaments, you will not know. I'll be far too good.
So I think
I won't be live streaming it. Look at it that way.
All right, guys, we've spent enough time talking about this sort of community stuff. I think, is what it is. It's happened. Hopefully, we can get some better rules.
Yeah, but I think the next step is
it's good to have.
The next step is just to get FFG to weigh in on it, not too harshly, and give us, rather than any sort of reply one way or the other on that incident. I just want floor rules. Give us a structured way that we can apply the rules of the game.
Cool. So I think that for sure. Absolutely. And look, I think that this is something that's happened. I thought it was really important that we talk about it and not just dust it under the rug. But we're not calling anyone out. We're just saying this is what happened. Here's what we're thinking about it, and here's how we're thinking in general about the whole shady play aspect of L5R. So moving on to something a bit more positive in the community is part of this game is not just the competitive card game playing nature, but it's also when we play, we like to play with shiny things, we like to play with cool components, we like to bring custom play mats and tokens and wooden rings and stuff, and for that to happen we need people to make that sort of stuff. So to highlight that, I caught up earlier in the week with two locals, Meagan and Daniel, who are two of the more creative types here in Melbourne, to talk about what it takes to build these custom deck boxes, what it means to the community, and talking about not only what they get up to and some of the techniques they've got involved, get to hear about laser cutting and all sorts of things, but we'll also then talk about how, if you want to get involved, how you can get involved and what the arts and crafts community looks like and different ways you can help. So have a listen to that right now. G'day everybody, I'm here with Meagan and Daniel, who are two of our most noted crafts folk here in Melbourne, and to talk a little bit about some of the amazing things that they get up to and some of the projects that are soon to be. So I just thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of a roundtable like this and talk about some non-strategy, non-deep tactics or non-event results, but do something a little bit different with the pod for today. So first of all, I've got Meagan here with me, who has her own miniature. She's a professional miniature painter, and I've been playing Scorpion with her for a very long time. She's another, like myself, she's another big Scorpion fan, and has all these other projects going on. Hey, Meagan.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. Then I've also got with me Daniel, who, apart from being a diehard Dragon fan, is also he's a bit of a Renaissance man. He works with lots of different mediums. He's not. I don't know if he's ever painted miniatures. I'll have to ask him that maybe in a second. But certainly all of the other crafty stuff, 3D printing, wooden wooden play. I don't know, but woodcraft. I'm not sure what wooden play is.
Wouldn't play.
You can tell that I'm good at this stuff.
Different podcasts.
All right, yes, this is not really PG-13. Okay, cool. How's it going, Daniel?
Yeah, not bad. I did paint miniatures years and years ago, but I was never very good at that. So mostly what I do is stuff I can plug into a computer and get cool stuff out the other end.
Cool. And so when did you get into L5R, I guess? Like, I mean, everyone's got their own little story, and it might be good for the folks at home to learn a little bit about how each of you kind of got into it. So, Daniel, what was your journey?
A number of years ago now, back in the old game, the 20 Festivals, the last core set that came out, a bunch of friends at uni split a box of all the different starters. I saw the game and thought it looked kind of interesting, went and bought myself a dragon deck because Enlightenment, alternate win conditions, y'all. And absolutely loved it and been playing since then.
Cool. What about yourself, Meagan?
I actually got into L5R through the RPG, the old one.
Oh, nice.
I tried the old card game, wasn't a fan, but I stuck with the RPG until pretty much that whole group disintegrated, as RPG groups tend to do. And when I found out that there was going to be a new L5R card game, I jumped on that so quickly and stuck with, just dove into Scorpion and haven't left. And
It's
never will.
Awesome. So one of the great things about this game is about L5R, which, other communities certainly have cool things made, cool stuff TM, but I feel like L5R in particular has a artisans-based economy going on, because it's a living card game as well. People buy the cards and they go, hey, I'm not wasting my money like I do with Magic. I've got all this extra cash. What can I do? Hey, you've made something cool. I want to buy it. I guess you guys make stuff for yourselves and other people. Why do you get involved in this craft? I mean, what's so fun about it? Why do you do it?
Well, I think for me, just making stuff it just appeals to me. I'm a maker at heart. Like, pretty much anything that I can make instead of buying, I'll do it. It's not just because I'm cheap. It is also because I just really like making things and having something concrete at the end of it to go, oh yeah, hey, I did that.
Oh, nice. What about
For me, whilst I do enjoy the making, I've in the past found that I've just started and then never finished it. With L5R, because everybody else has all these great tokens and I don't really want to pay for them, I figure I can make something cool. And I've gone and found ways, new and unique ways, I hope, to make these really cool things, which I love and hope other people do too.
I think L5R is just really great for that as well. Like, just all the art and the lore, and it's it's just one of those things that is just so open to people creating new stuff. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I was thinking we could showcase a few of the different products that you guys you've made. Meagan, I remember first of all, the first thing I remember seeing that I was like, wow, these are cool, that I'd not seen before. You had these sort of oversized scorpion-themed tokens. What were they about?
Yeah. I tried to get into like the tabletop game Infinity a little while ago, and had bought like these chunky things to put to make tokens out of for that, and then that faded away, and then I got into L5R and still had them lying around, and there was heaps of tokens out there that people had bought and made, and I was like, oh man, those are so cool, but I'm so broke. So I'm just gonna take whatever I've got lying around and try and make some tokens. And I think I, did all those in an afternoon. They weren't very, technically hard to do, so I just kind of threw them together.
Do you want to talk through the process there? Because I think they were were they glass or what were they?
Yeah, they're like resin beads or something. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they were, but I just bought a pack of them off eBay, and they were super cheap, so that was nice. I think I got like 20 of them for like $6 or something. And then I just printed out some like scorpion mons and stuck those onto some black card, and then put the glass beads over the top. And that's it. That was really it. You just glue them. It wasn't anything fancy or special. It was just really straightforward. Just a lot of cutting and gluing and getting my hands super glued to cardboard. It's fine.
Well, probably something that was quite fancy and a hell of a lot more elaborate was that mask that you made for CotE. Do you want to describe what that was?
Yeah. Okay. So I went through, as all makers do, I think, we kind of experiment with different things that we want to try out all the time. I had just made some pieces of like Skyrim foam armor for like cosplay, and I was like, oh, foam's really cool, I like that. And then for the CotE, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a scorpion mask, it's gonna be great. So I just found a pattern online and made that out of half inch foam. Just cut them out, stuck them all together, coated them in like Plasti Dip, which is like this rubber coating spray, and then just painted it up, and it turned out all right. It was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty special.
It was a little too big. I'll have to shrink the pattern next time.
Yeah, it was a bit tricky to wear.
Yeah,
and what about,
it was.
Yeah, and there was some rings, I think. Did you make some rings?
I know. Rings are the only thing I haven't made yet, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you did make a card box. I remember the card box you still use today. I think it's your standard card box.
I still use it. Yeah. I just got a box from Bunnings. Like, it wasn't anything dramatic. Like, one of those, like, kids' crafty art box things that you can buy.
Yeah.
And I got my little, like, rotary tool and engraved things around the outside. Painted that up. Put the Scorpion Mon on the top with just, like, a stencil and an airbrush. And put some dividers in there. With some other thin wood that I cut to size, and yeah, that's it.
So it sounds like, to me, what you're saying is, whilst like, in your day-to-day miniature painting, that's a sort of a craft that takes many years to master. With some of these projects that you're working on, the mask is probably quite elaborate, but when it comes to the card box and the tokens, it's very much a do-it-yourself attitude, right? Like, anyone can really have a crack at it. You don't have to be a crazy artist or anything. You can just have a go, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, all you have to do is like look up like jewelry supplies off eBay, and a printer. Like that's all you need, really. Scissors, glue. That's it. It's all you really need, and you can kind of make whatever you want. I think anybody can do this. I think I don't think it doesn't have to be super elaborate. Like I know you get super nice things that other people make with like laser cutters and like metal casting, and all those are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I wish I could afford them. But yeah, if you don't have the money, or you don't, $80 like that set of tokens, just print some out, fiddle around with some paper, with some jewelry supplies, with some glue, paint. Like, yeah, it's really easy, straightforward things to do, and everybody can give it a crack.
Brilliant. All right, well, let's maybe highlight a few. Daniel's got many different projects. Just
So
looking
many.
yeah, maybe let's start with what was the? Can you remember what the first
I do
first
actually
project you
remember
worked
the
on?
first thing. So when the new L5R game was announced, we knew it's like, oh, it's going to be cool. What are they going to do with rings? They've mentioned tokens. No idea what that was about. Fast forward a couple of years to when they're starting to do previews. They show the ring tokens. And so naturally we're printing out proxies already and starting to play the game with the rules as best we can. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to use their tokens. So I went to a friend who had a 3D printer at the time, and he just gave him the mod images for the rings. He printed me these wonderful plastic rings, half blue plastic, half red plastic, which I believe he had to actually dismantle the extruder halfway through the print to get done. So props to him. But yeah, so now I've got these card-sized rings, larger than the ones that Fantasy Flight give. Great for holding Fate. And they just look really nice. They're really easy to tell what they are. And yeah, that was the first thing I made for this game.
And I guess it seems like something that you do that a little bit different to Meagan. Meagan's very hands-on with crafting things. I feel like you're more of a designer, and the 3D printing is something that you've got quite into, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of the 3D printing. I've also found a model online and printed up a copy of the Dragon Stronghold, as well as a couple of the others for friends, which Meagan is actually painting up at the moment. But other than that, it's mostly I've been doing wooden laser cut stuff. I found that the 3D printed stuff wasn't coming out to the quality I wanted with the printers I could afford to get my hands on. So I switched to the wood and spoke to my sister, who is a design student, to help me design some pieces which I've gone and laser cut and etched.
So laser cutters, right? Like, for those of us who are a little bit behind the times, laser cutters sounds like some terrifying futuristic torture device.
No, it's a God's gift to man, laser cutters. Yes.
Well, terrifying torture device, God's gift to man. It depends on your perspective, really. And I viewed them the same laser cutter as both things.
So what actually is a laser cutter? I don't even know what one looks like.
At its heart, a laser cutter is a highly focused, highly intense laser that cuts through materials for you. So you can get large industrial ones, which cut through metal, cuts through thick wood, acrylic, what have you. Or you get smaller hobby ones like the one I have access to, which only does untreated wood because ventilation is hard to come by.
Got it.
So, yeah.
So you've started experimenting. You've done your 3D printed stuff. Have you? I do know that my favorite thing that you've ever done. You've done lots of really cool stuff, and the first thing I saw were those big giant rings, which I really still love those giant rings. But the favorite thing I've ever seen was the opposite, the tiny, tiny little, and I guess they were laser printed as well. Those tiny little rings. Do you want to talk about why those rings were printed and what they're for?
So they're just tiny versions of the regular ring symbols. They don't actually have the disc around them that a lot of them do. It's just the symbol for the most part. And those ones are primarily for Phoenix. Cards like, I think it's Master of Gisei Toshi, there's a holding which lets you act like you've got a claimed ring. One of the students says during a conflict of a type of your choice, it gets +2/+2. And so these are just little tokens to represent which ring each of those cards has chosen.
Yeah, so they help so much with the board state, and also they look pretty. So one of the things as well is that in terms of aesthetic, right, is I find that different players have different types of aesthetics. So those wooden sort of 3D printed stuff is I know there are some folk, and there's definitely some folk here in Melbourne that like this stuff, but they will have a very almost like traditional. They've got like a wooden card box. They use the wooden rolls. They've got wooden rings. Like everything is that sort of old style wooden, and it looks like fantastic. And then there's other people who are extremely flashy and use the luxury game style tokens or whatever the blingiest, jeweliest stuff is. And one of the things I do love about it is how people do express themselves through this craft. I think that's cool.
Right, I found myself that I had my nice 3D printed rings, but when I started doing other things with the wood and the laser cutting, that the 3D printed rings didn't actually match anymore. And that really grates on me. So I've got some wooden rings as well, which should hopefully be coming out fairly shortly.
Yeah. So what? I mean, I'm sure you've got a few things in the laboratory. What are you guys cooking at the moment? What's new? Any interesting projects?
I kind of want to, on the same vein as those like a Scorpion, not Scorpion, those are Phoenix tokens. I want to make some for Scorpion. So things that where you can give another character neg 2 or
some poison tokens.
Yeah, poison tokens, or the Sinister Soshi tokens. I would like to make some Sinister Soshi tokens, and probably some more universal ones like ones like bonsai and stuff. So how many times you've kicked it on a character or whatever else.
Some plus 2. Handy. Sort of like plus 2 mil or plus 3 mil or whatever tokens. Yeah.
Yep. I think those are coming super handy. I would really like to 3D model some tokens and get them 3D printed out and then cast them. So make molds out of them and cast them out of resin. Because like what you were saying before, like the different styles of things you can have, like traditional wood styles versus like the flashy, shiny things. I'm kind of straight down the middle. I like both. So either one of those things would be really cool to have, either out of wood or out of resin or whatever else. I want to make a new deck box now that I have access to a laser cutter as well. Would really like to actually make something really cool. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the Wormwood videos, how they put, like they laser engrave words into the boxes and they fill them with like aluminium powder and stuff and set them in.
Oh wow.
That stuff looks awesome, so I'd really like to do a box like that, for not just the card game but for the RPG as well, so like somewhere to put dice as well. That would be really cool. Gosh, what else have I got going? Anything that I think of at the time, really, to be honest. It's
so
like,
these projects,
I need more of these. So,
sometimes it's on a whim, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. It's like I'm having a bored afternoon. I'm like, do you know what I could really like use right about now? Some L5R tokens. Yeah, that sounds really good. And then, I'll go onto eBay and be like, yep, I'll buy that, and that. And then, 2 weeks later, they'll come in the mail and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Better start making them. And I want to make more of those little tokens that I did for Chris's newbie tournament. So I made a bunch of clan tokens, just for like fate or honor or whatever you want to use them for. I made a whole set for the winners to have. And I really liked how they came out, so I kind of want my own set of those. Because I didn't make myself any.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Cool. And Daniel, have you got anything new cooking?
I've got one thing currently in the works, but just listening to Meagan already having plans on how to do the +2, +3 military tokens relatively easily with the laser cutter. The only problem is that the one thing I do have in the works is a really nice deck box. I've got slots for my Fate, Conflict and Dynasty decks, a slot for the provinces, my wooden stronghold, wooden rolls, a wooden first player token, a wooden Imperial Favor, which I've got designed but haven't cut yet, and then I've got a drawer to house all my tokens. Now, currently
you designed the shit out of that box, like.
Oh yeah!
Oh my god!
I hand drew all of this before realizing my measurements were slightly off, and then asked my sister really nicely to redo it for me in a 3D modeling program. That's neither here nor there. So this drawer has a large slot for the rings to fit into, because they are obviously larger than everything else, and then 3 small slots for Honor, Fate, and then the Honoured Dishonoured tokens. And then sitting on top of that is a little shelf that will contain all my dice to keep track of the numbers. A problem is that now if I want to have my +2, +3 tokens, Sinister Soci tokens, or miniature rings or anything like that, I'll need to find somewhere to put space for all of these tokens as well.
You know, I think there's something to be said for when you're at the table, especially when you're in a tournament, right? To be able to sit down with a nice playmat, a really nice set of custom tokens. It's like, I feel like, especially when you're at a big tournament, it's almost like, especially when you've got interstate guests or, you're overseas, whatever, it's a nice little, hey, I'll show you, this is my stuff, this is how I play. And it's a way to personalize. You might be playing the exact same deck list that 100 other people are playing, but that doesn't matter because you're going to do it in style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but even if it's not super stylish, because these are, cheapy homemade ones that took me an afternoon to do, and they don't look the greatest, but they're mine and I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
Different
even
to
better when
everyone
you can
else's.
go, if someone goes, oh man, those tokens or that box looks really cool. And, it's one thing to go, yeah, it does really look cool, thanks. It's another thing to be like, yeah, and I made this.
One thing that I'm doing with the box at the moment is I've got all the pieces, I just need to assemble it, that'll just be plain wood. However, I'm also going back and laser cutting all the pieces again with images etched into them. So the box itself is going to have the fancy dragon mon on top, and images of our different strongholds from over the years around the sides. I'm going to redo the inside of the box with just different images here and there, not too much, but just like tattoos like you would get from the Dragon Clan.
Got it. So there are a lot of places out there where, on the line where people can learn how to get involved in the craft. But, is there any L5R groups you're aware of, like little communities or Facebook groups, Discord lists, etc., where people get together and actually talk about, how they're going to do these sorts of things?
Not really, to be honest. Our Australian Discord server, though, has, merchandise kind of chat area where sometimes there'll be some of us who'll post what we've done or what we are making at the time, but I don't think I've really come across anything where people talk specifically about L5R stuff that they're making.
So one thing that's actually just changed recently on the Australian Discord is that merch channel is now the Arts and Crafts channel.
I love it.
Yes.
So a couple of us were just discussing in the general chat that, we've got the merch channel where we can show off some of the stuff we've made, but we want somewhere to show off, the in progress and, hey, this is what I've made rather than just this is what I've bought.
Yeah,
ask for
two different
advice.
things.
Yeah, and our wonderful moderator has saw the chat and changed it there and then as we were discussing it.
Yeah, and to ask advice as well, I think is a big part of it, because we could have some ideas like, I want to make this, I'm not sure what the best way to go about it is, or even in my case, what the most cost-effective way to go about this is, and to try and get a set of something made, and then you can kind of build and make it better after the fact. But yeah, just ask for advice, like how to cast things in resin, or the best 3D printer settings to have for a particular thing that you're printing, or whatever, anything like that. Having a space to be able to do that and talk about that kind of stuff would be super, super, super handy.
So there is actually on the global Discord league, for anyone who is a member of that, and there's hundreds of people on there, there is an arts and crafts channel on there. It's just there's 50 channels on the global Discord league.
There's so many.
But
I've lost count.
if you go to the, how they've grouped the channels, if you go to the general group, there is an arts and crafts channel, and you can scroll through that, and there's people there who are making custom playmats. You've got cool little tokens and different bits and pieces. So that's
I see it now.
Yeah.
Some of those custom playmats are amazing. Oh my god, some people are talented.
So
I've just had all the channels muted because too much coming in at once. So
Yeah, me too.
I had everything except for the Dragon chat muted, but not anymore.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile if you are into this sort of stuff. If you're an Australian listener, or indeed a Southeast Asian listener, and have joined the Australian Discord server because of the fantastic Discord league that is running now, check out Arts and Crafts. And if you're on otherwise, check out, if you're one of our overseas listeners, please go and check out Arts and Crafts on the global Discord league. And also, I think. In general, I occasionally see on the different like clan Facebook pages or the global Facebook page, people post up pictures and stuff. Don't be ashamed or scared to, like, if you've made something, to just show folk. Like, I feel like that's, for me as someone who isn't as much on the creative side when it comes to craftsmanship and woodplay, is I do think that I get like a moment of joy when I see people create stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, look at that cool thing. I've seen like amazing strongholds and rings and all sorts of stuff, and I just think it's cool, and I think that is what makes this. I think it's one of the things that make this community so cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've got there is actually a Facebook group that I totally forgot about actually. That I joined a little while ago, that Mel started up, which is really, really cool, which I will tell you what it is called in just 2 seconds. The Sakura clan? I can't even say the name right now. But essentially it's for women, non-binary folk, and LGBTQ plus people to join, and we have some very talented members on that page that make all those like custom playmats and other tokens and art. There's just people who make cosplay stuff as well. So yeah, like Mel has her hat up there. Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome.
There's 2 different Mels, just to be clear. There's 2 Mels. Sorry.
Which Mel are you talking about?
Melissa Marsh.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so people have just a whole bunch of stuff on there as well, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think Melissa Marsh is quite entrenched in the LARP and cosplay scene, so I've seen some really cool stuff that she's put together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And additionally,
really cool.
As a crafter, when you put your stuff up there, there might not always be the most comments on it or the most feedback, but generally there's at least 1 or 2 people who say, hey, that's real cool. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
All right.
It's just those 1 or 2 people that make it all worthwhile.
For sure.
Yep.
So thank you both for gracing us with your presence. It's been absolutely great to hear from you, and hopefully you have inspired some of the folk out there listening to us to make their own things. So anyone out here in the community who does make their own things and they want them showcased, please let us know. Send us pics on the Hidden City Rollers Facebook page, and we'll make sure everybody sees them, and we'll and some good ones we'll talk about on podcasts as they develop. Last thing is, have you got any plugs? Anyone? Meagan, I think you've got your what's your miniature? You paint miniatures, right? And do you have a particular way people can contact you around that?
Yeah, my miniature page is called Pigment Painting, so you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook under that name. So yeah, come and check out my stuff.
Cool.
I guess, if you want. If you're into it, I don't know.
And if people want to get in touch with you, Daniel, or see your cool stuff?
I don't actually really have much of a way to get in contact with me other than
probably
just
a good
post
thing
on Facebook or through Discord. That said, I have had a couple of people now ask about commissioning some of the things I've made, so I'm going to be looking into doing that. So if that does happen, I'll let you know, and you can let everyone else know.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all, and we'll hopefully speak to you again sometime.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Cool. Hopefully you enjoyed that little segment there. It's always good to catch up with the locals and talk about things, have a little bit of a breath of fresh air, something that's not hardcore competitive games. But we do have a little bit more to cover today. Some pretty exciting stuff. First of all, the segment that everybody begged for us to continue doing. We did it once and we're going to do it again now. Deck Doctor with Toreadory. We're going to come up with a snappier name for that segment. But I think, Butters, you have an amazing deck that Bert has not had a look at. Did you want to paste that deck into our chat now so that Bert can open it up and you can start...
We're doing this live, guys. This is
right.
You're going to get my reaction.
Do it live!
So
You're
So
going to
what
get
I'm
my
gonna
reaction
do
as it comes.
is we're going to do it a piecemeal at a time. Bert's going to give it a bit of an analysis at the beginning, and then I'm going to explain it. So what's the deck title here, Bert?
It's called Bert Approved, Line Unlocked. So, first of all, fuck you for using my name without permission.
It was preemptive because I know you're going to approve as we go, and we can release it in the wild.
So let's take a look here. It's Yoji no Shiro, which, as you all know, I called HMT unplayable trash from day one, and I stand by that. So I'm a big fan of the Stronghold choice, Butters. Well done. We got Scorpion as our splash. I actually have been tooling around with a bit of Scorp as well. And then the Province Row. Before the Throne, okay, this is getting a little dicey. Before the Throne, Upholding Authority, Abandoning Honor, Shameful Display, and Art of War. So what the hell goes on the Stronghold? I guess you're putting Abandoning Honor on the box.
Abandoning Honor on the box. Yes. See, look, we are in sync. You see, you understand what's going on. You're learning, Bert. You're learning is what's going on. So, so what's the game plan based on what you can see?
This is hard dishonor. You're bidding low. You're using Tactician's Apprentice to keep your card draw up, and you're using. I'm hoping I'm going to see some Icon Swims and mazes, but we'll see.
And just so we know, this deck, a link to the deck will be posted in the show notes.
Right, well, everyone should give it a go, and you've got to
see more, man. I'm thirsty
got to let
for
go.
more.
Okay, so first, let me just explain. So the game plan for this deck. Let me just read the blurb, because I've given actually a strategy guide for the deck as well. So, first of all, you cannot win. So, your opponent has to defeat themselves. So you hold out with stall tactics, use the Imperial Favor, and win less effects for your opponent, such as breaking your provinces, so that eventually your opponent gains such a strong sense of security and confidence that they let themselves slip into a low honor state where you can strike and knock them down to 0. That's what we're after. Right? All right. So Yoji no Shiro is really important. 12 starting honor means you're 1 or 2 honor points away from the honor loss you're going to cop so regularly, and you get an extra influence point over the other line box, which is really important because it means it's an extra red card you can have. All right. Good? Okay, so I am going to move on to the next part.
Can I see more, Butters? Show me more.
Yep. Let's go. More card. Here we go. Dynasty. Are you ready for Dynasty? Here we go.
Let's do it. Let's see some Dynasty.
Boom.
Am I seeing some Guria Kitsu here? All right. I'm gonna read out some of the things that I think are kind of funky. All right. Okay. 3 Kage. I fucking hate this card, man. I hate this card with a burning passion.
What's so bad about it?
You want me to dissect this guy about why he's so awful? Because you pay in a clan that's military focused, you pay 4 fate for a 2/4 courtier, no bushi, that has a text that's only on when you're more honourable. Granted, that's sometimes easier to do than other times if you've got a deck that's designed to do it. And his effect basically means that you get hand card parity from bids with your opponent. So if you bid 1, your opponent has to bid 1. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Do you know how you can get that? Do you know how you can get that?
Stop.
You can get that by bidding 5. If you bid 5, your opponent will bid 5, and you will have hand parity. Why would I pay 6 fate for this guy? He sucks.
Okay, hang on. I have to hold you up, right? Because he is critical to the correctional... Okay, you say you get hand parity with your opponent, right? But that is false. Because... No. So let's say you both draw 1 card, right? Your opponent draws a card, but you only get to draw a yellow card. Right? So
that's fair.
By keeping the cards low, you're actually bringing yourself into a more level playing field.
The other thing that's interesting about this deck that you've so fancifully named after me, Butters, is that there's no Tactician's Apprentice, which is really fucking weird to me, given that your whole scheme is to bid low and you got Kage in there.
What's the point in drawing yellow cards, man?
Well, you get to dig. No, but you get to dig for your splash.
Why?
You get to dig for the Scorpion card.
Can you just Bert here, right? Can you talk to me about the holding ratio? Do you think this is the optimal number of holdings to have in a deck? And do you want to tell our listening audience?
All right, he's got 1. It's just the Imperial Palace. I don't really see the point of it. Do you need favor? You're not even. I guess you are playing Ujiaki, so is that?
Yeah. So
Any other surprises in the Dynasty deck?
Aspiring Challenger. What does that guy do again? I've got to Google him. Hang on, crew.
Hang on. Okay, so let's give it a bit of time. All right, hang on a second. Let you find out for yourself.
Aspiring Challenger.
Composure plus
He's a
2
duelist.
glory, and he can honor a duel's winner when he can duel someone and the winner gets honored. Yeah.
No. All right. So
You don't seem very
I just
impressed.
don't really understand the point of this card.
hold up. So the point is, the Dynasty is a mix of bodies that allow you to use all of the common keywords, right? You've got Bushi and Courtier and Shugs. You've got a good mix of all of them. And you've got plenty of glory in there. And since Lion have got glory, and because they have glory, they get dishonored, they have no skill, you may as well keep them around so that you can have the favor every turn. And that takes us into the next phase. 1 second.
Okay, so all right, this is questionable as fuck. But let's move. Can we move on to the conflict? Because
Let's see the
conflict
conflict
side's
side.
where the magic happens in Lion.
This is the magic. This is where it's at.
Okay, so is this a joke just to piss me off, or
What? This has legs, I'll have you know.
Not at all. This is a legit
Alright.
deck that somebody has put together.
okay? So I'm just gonna just first of all, the first thing I noticed is that there are no lion cards in this conflict deck. It's all neutrals and scorpion, which is magnificent. You got 2 Way of the Chrysanthemums. Not sure why that's there, given that we're not going to win by honor ever. You got Way of the
No lion cards. Literally no lion cards at all.
Policy to Pay, I Can Swim, and Backhanders. Yeah, I mean, Infiltrator's kind of interesting. Glenn's been using that against me a lot recently, and it's really annoying.
I'll tell you what,
Scorpion attachment that lets you play cards of your opponent's deck.
the gold from the Infiltrator is that it lets you use non-yellow cards. You can use cards from other clans. It is exceptional.
So this is to gain value. It's to convert your yellow conflict deck.
yeah,
All right, Butters, have you ever actually played this deck? Have you played it?
I have. It has had several runs, and it nearly won a couple of times.
All right.
It's all.
My
it's all
advice would be
It's all about the bait and switch,
my advice
mate.
would be to cut the fat and put in some mazes, man. I put in some mazes. Mazes and I Can Swims. That's what I love.
Okay, I understand. I appreciate your perspective, but I think when you're playing Lion, you can't be using a card on a coin flip, right? Like, you don't have that kind of luxury. So there's a bit more of a write up there. I'll let you go through. There's a bit of a document to the process, but I won't run you through it all. But the point is, you got to.
Do you know what I like
what-
about this deck, right? Is that you've identified the Lion unplayably bad, so you can just do whatever the fuck you want with them. like playing
That's why it's bird
like
approved.
playing backhanded compliments and Way of the Chrysanthemum. So in that way, Butters, we are perfectly aligned in our opinions. So you know what? I challenge everyone to go and play this Bert approved Lion Unlocked deck. Go for it.
Give us a rate. I'm going to publish it right now, and you can give it a write up. Let us know what
I
you
cannot.
think.
Butters,
Can
you
Bert, do
you
you
have
want to
written about 10 paragraphs of strategy.
This is serious business.
Oh man,
It's a masterpiece. It is an absolute
yeah, this
masterpiece.
is your
Yes.
opus, dude.
The structure of defeat.
I will.
That's
I will pony up a legit $100 US to whoever wins a tournament with this thing. It's happening.
win a tournament.
I love this. The 2 main segments to this strategy article are through defeat, victory, then the structure of defeat, and then the 5 phases of failure. And he goes through dynasty, draw, conflict, fate, and regroup. And then it's matchup specifics against non-yellow clans. Bunker down. This is going to get choppy. Oh man. Oh dude. I'm screaming into my mic, so I'm sorry, listeners, if you're having to weather me screaming.
Lion Clan, acknowledge your opponent's commitment and bravery. You may be opponents, but you are kin. The other clans can't really appreciate the tribulation you face each and every game.
Okay, yeah, this is a masterpiece. We'll link this deck to our cast, and I
Absolutely.
implore everyone to read this strategy guide. It is 4D chess. This is 4D chess strategy.
I think the thing I never realised, I got a sneak preview of this deck beforehand. The thing that didn't click to me is that the conflict deck has no line cards in it at all. No line cards. It's got more scorpion cards by a long way than line cards. It is piece de resistance, Mr. Butters. I don't think he could have done better.
That is incredible.
All right, so
just
let's
going
move
into
on.
next week, I think we got another deck that Connor Trainer submitted, which we'll look at next time. We just didn't have time to look at it.
Conan.
Sorry. Oh, that's right, Conan. Yeah, from Phoenix Guy. Cool. We will check that out next week.
Long-time Phoenix player and arch nemesis of our own roller Merlin.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yep.
ominous.
They've had many Phoenix on
Many
Phoenix battles over
Tariu
the
at the
years.
final tables at CotE's in the past.
Right, so let's go on to some cards that maybe we'll see play, that will be in decks that might see play. There was actually some cool news spoilers, so let's walk through these. These were to do with the Inheritance Pack 2, I think. So let's start with the myth, the man, the legend, the card that inside Phoenix will never ever see play. Because his name's Isua Tadaka, and aka Isua, not the good one, Tadaka.
So,
Right.
so that's what the game needs, though, is more Tadaka.
Yeah. People love seeing his
I actually-
face.
What he needs, we needed more than more Tadaka was conflict Tadaka. Surprise disguise Tadaka. That's what we needed.
So let's look at this card, right? So it's a 5 fate cost unique conflict character called Isua Tadaka, which means that you can't play it with Isua Tadaka, the good one. And he has 5 military, 3 political, 2 glory, so no changes there. Still an elemental master, still a Shigenja, still Earth. Can only be played in Phoenix and Crab. Has a 2 influence cost, so that's really interesting. So it can't be played in any clans apart from Phoenix and Crab. Is a disguised Shigenja, so that cool new disguised character, that disguised keyword, and Tyler did confirm on, I think it was Art of Warcast. He was on a podcast recently.
Art of Warcast.
He did say that, Art of Warcast. Really good interview. I'd recommend listening to it. He talks about how Training Grounds is his biggest failure as a human. And
Did he really? Proving Grounds.
yeah, he said that Proving Grounds, not Proving Grounds, the
Lion one, of
Lion
course.
holding that gives +1. He said that there was a card. I mean, listen to the podcast; he'll tell it in his own words. But Art of Warcast is a great cast, so please do. But he said that in terms of cards that he designed that he's least proud of, that was the one, because essentially it was a completely different card, but for Lion. And at the time that this was designed, Lion were doing pretty good. Like, they weren't considered a weak.
Well,
clan
in
or anything like
1999, that card was designed then?
I feel like it was designed in 2017, obviously. But he did say that it was a really the effect was far too strong, and it was meaning that Lion would be way too dominant. So they dialed it back, ditched the card, and they inserted this one instead. But anyway, that's a digression. So Isua Tadaka has an action, which is during a conflict, remove one or more characters in your Dynasty discard pile from the game. So you chuck a bunch of characters from your discard pile, flick them out, RFG'd. Dash, look at that many reaction cards from your opponent's hand, choose and discard one of those cards. So, thoughts, feelings?
I want to get a clarification. Is it that each deck can only have 3 copies of a unique character?
No, it's
So
it's
can you have?
it's total.
You can have. So you can't have 3 Dynasty Tadaka.
Oh,
and
no,
3
no, no,
Conflict
correct.
Tadaka.
Your deck. So your total, yeah.
That's all one
So you
deck.
can't have 3.
Okay, because I'm just curious what the definition is.
So
there.
my big hope is that this is a harbinger for the banning of other Tadaka. But if it's not, then of course Phoenix isn't going to be playing this, right?
Well,
Can I? Well,
Tyler
hang
did
on.
mention on Art of Wardcast that there is no real issues at the moment. He says the
Wow.
game's
Dude,
looking pretty good.
If
so.
I'm
so,
shocked.
this is. I mean, in Dragon, right? You've got the fucking what's the little magic? The guy that looks at your hand and policy debates you every turn. This is functionally...
Investigator.
If you've got enough guys... Like, if you're running a Satoshi Keeper and you're already milling tons of stuff off the top of your deck, you're functionally getting a Kitsuki Investigator off this guy every turn, which is pretty rough. Without burning a Fate, I'll point out. You're just dumping
his abilities, I think, worse than Investigators, because the Fate cost for Investigator is usually recouped, and then you get to look at their entire hand, whereas this is a number of random cards equal to the number of guys you remove. It's
you know
still
what
really
it is?
good.
It's actually... No, you know what it is? It's a hard counter versus Miyako's Undertaking and Shiziro Actress.
Because that's what...
Miyako's Undertaking will never see play because...
You know what else is a hard counter versus Miyako's Undertaking? Undertaking is Yurt. You just get your opponent up over that 6 honor mark and all their cards shut down.
So I think let's structure this conversation two ways. First of all, in his home, can we shortcut this conversation by saying, whilst Isuwa Tadaka is on the restricted list, this card will never see play?
Yes, but I think if you look at it in a vacuum, it's actually a very strong card. The disguise trait from Conflict means you can get a huge body in, sometimes for cheap, on a guy who's leaving play or whatever to win you the game. The effect is nice, but it's mainly that he's a 5/3 disguise from Conflict that's really good.
That's super good.
Right.
That's about it, yeah. He's a good character.
Okay, so let's talk Crab, right? So I was thinking about this. So the disguise keyword, you can go and have a look at it, but one of the cool things that people may forget about the disguise keyword is that it does straighten the character that is disguised. So if we put this on, say, a Steadfast Witch Hunter, after he's already used his ability, it will straighten that Steadfast Witch Hunter for 1 fate.
Again.
So
It's my understanding that it doesn't actually... It just enters play ready, right?
Yeah.
The other guy...
Yeah, it enters play ready, so the bowed Steadfast Witch Hunter, which is actually Isuwa Tadaka, straightens.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's the way that it works.
It is actually a straighten? Because I thought the guy just got discarded. Like, the bowed guy gets...
He gets discarded and this guy goes. So it's not counted as a straighten, so it gets
Which is
around.
important.
Earth becomes sky.
So you cannot Earth become sky yet. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a second. So in Crab, what Shigenja do they currently have access to where this might be useful? There's the Apprentice Earthcaller, right?
Yeah, I mean, that you'd bring out with like 3 or 4 Fate, right? Just a big prep. And then you get to drop Tadaka next turn to stick around for 30 years, ruining lives.
Kudaka is another one that Crabs sometimes still run.
Mere Mystic.
Well, Kudaka won't work though, right? Because Disguised has to be on a non-unique character.
Kudaka's unique. Oh, it has to be on non-unique.
So the idea of disguise thematically, and this is kind of what Tyler was talking about as well on that interview. The idea is like, you might have a crew of lion bushi who are charging into battle, and then one of them like disrobes and goes, "Check it out, I'm this other cool dude."
Yeah,
and I'm here to steal your iron mine.
Okay, in that case, it's pretty difficult with Crab's current crop because you don't. I mean, oftentimes you'd prefer to have the Witch Hunter if it's got a lot of fate and attachments and stuff, because the effect is kind of better.
But could this potentially be like a one-of, because it's basically another straighten? It's just like in terms of...
but then you've got to sack...
Then
you're losing the best splash in the game for Crab, which is Unicorn. So it's...
Sure.
I think this guy's maybe... You know what? He's very, very powerful in a vacuum. And I think in some future game state, like a couple sets from now, or maybe it'll just be this set and there'll be enough Shigenja for Crab, then he'll see a lot of play. But for right now, I think in Phoenix, just because of his name, he won't see play, and then in Crab, it's just going to be a big ask. But he's really cool text.
All right.
Right now out of Crab, you can run Mantis Tenkinja, the little 2-coster.
Yeah, that guy's a good candidate, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. All right.
That's it. That's all.
So let's move on. We have Festival of the Departed. And Festival of the Departed is a province. Keeper roll only, 4 province strength, Earth. During conflicts of this province, characters cannot have their skills increased by the effects of event cards. So it stops like your Bunzais and Legions of One and stuff.
Oh, it's only increased. I totally misread that the first time around. I thought they couldn't be modified. Which was
pretty rough.
No, so you can debuff them.
That is super good. That's a really solid province. That can hands down go on your box.
It's more it's more reason that FFG is giving us to run big towers with attachments instead of event based decks, which they seem to be wanting us to do.
I think Lion was a real problem. That's why they've created this card, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much is this? This just destroys Lion.
It's a good stronghold province, right? Because then, if your opponent's a lion and they've got 3 Way of the Lions in hand, you just... Oh, wait, no, Way of the Lion gets around this, doesn't it? Because it's setting.
Yeah.
Setting is not increasing.
Setting, so it's not
Hey,
increasing.
buff to lion. Way to go, FFG.
Ish.
Ish.
Yeah, no,
It's not a full buff.
really a buff.
But
Okay, so I feel like this one, are we saying basically it's good for decks that run attachments and characters that stick around for a while?
I think it's probably good in, like, Crab.
Well, under the box on Crab would be amazing. 7 strength, 7 province strength. And
Like,
your
it's certainly
opponent
better
can't
than
drop cards.
Rally, or... But then I guess you lose upholding, so I don't know. Well, it remains to be seen. It's an interesting text box, that's for sure. Like, it's a much better, more powerful effect than, like, Blood of Onotango or something. Because I can see more easily how this could be turned into an asymmetrical thing, right? Like, you're playing a deck where all of your pumps come from your big skill and your attachments, and you don't really play events for that. So in those sorts of decks, it's going to be strong.
It's going to see play, hands down. It's super good.
So, next card that we've got, we don't know which deck it comes from. Could be Conflict, could be Dynasty. Yogo Preserver, a 3-cost character of unknown deck. 2 military, 3 political. Unknown Glory. Shigenja Air, each Dishonored character you control gains Sincerity.
That is so good.
I think we can probably assume that it's not Conflict. I would guess.
Yeah, so let's just, for the purposes of this conversation, let's assume it's Dynasty.
Let's say 1 Glory. It's probably going to be 1 Glory.
0 or 1. Yogos are not known for their glory.
It's a nice effect. It's very, very good in the low bid Dishonor variant of Scorpion, right? Because then you're getting extra ancillary card draw.
Well, this
I
is...
think it's okay in KB as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just KB in
Yeah,
general.
Scorpion, got, mate, what do you got? You've got Calling in Favours, Forged Edict, Discouraged Pursuit, Peasant's Advice.
There are plenty of ways to get you guys Dishonored in Scorp, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good in KB, and I feel like because it's 3-cost, and there's heaps of great 3-cost and now 2-cost and 1-cost characters in Scorpion, so it means that you can get, like, you know, that the key 2 characters off an ambush target. So whether or not it makes it in decks, I don't know. But
it pairs so well with From the Shadows, right? You bring into play a Sadako for free, and he's Dishonored, and at the end of the turn, you get to draw a card.
Draw a card, yep.
That's super hot.
Goddamn.
Super good.
Sadako is so good.
I mean...
just buff Sadako.
I mean, another solid shug for enabling clouds that can't be assassinated is also pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it gets clouded even, like, it's not
deal.
the end of the world.
Big deal.
Yeah, like, it's a great effect, but, okay, I'll just not have all my people Dishonored
I think
anymore.
Scorpion are quite resilient to Cloud overall, because these days they're not really heavy fading characters anymore. And if you Cloud a catch go, she's still probably going to be Honoured or something, so... I think they're one of the clans that...
I'm probably the exception.
Yeah.
I love heavy fading. I love just 4 fading my Bayushi Whisperer. But anyway. But yeah. So I agree though. I think though that Scorpion's definitely at that spot now where it has lots of depth, but people are quite confused about how to actually build effective decks. So there's lots of different types of Scorpion decks. So I have no doubt at all that that'll see a lot of experimentation. Okay, so let's move on. Earth Becomes Sky.
Yes.
1 cost of Phoenix event. It's got 1 influence. It's Earth Roll only, so it's locked. I have noticed that a lot of the elemental locked cards tend to have 1 influence, which is great. Anyway, this is reaction. After a character an opponent controls is readied, bow that character.
This is
So this is
so
pretty good.
good.
Stops. Yeah. So I mean, you know, on a base level, it means during the regroup phase when character's ready, you could just straight up bow them. But I guess obviously with Phoenix being rampant at the moment, this is a good good trick to reduce the potency of their against the waves. Gaijin Customs, border riders. There's plenty of straightening effects, right?
It just makes the Phoenix Splash that much more attractive too if you do have an Earth Roll, because you can get Shrine Maidens of 1 as well, right? So you can get Against the Waves for 1, Shrine Maiden for 1, and Earth Becomes Sky for 1, and kind of go with a spell package. I think it could be kind of cool. The effect is incredibly strong. It's just the roll lock that's a shame.
Well, I think, honestly, the fact that it's an Earthroll lock, I think, is probably a net positive, because otherwise it's busted. So can you imagine sliding this thing
it's
into the existing Phoenix?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be a mess. But Phoenix, I cannot imagine ever gunning for an Earthroll in the current state of cards. Like Fire, Air, Void, like Seeker of Void is definitely a strong contender for Phoenix. Like, all of those things would be above.
I would think that they would probably want Seeker Reverse. They could still do 5 fires and stuff, maybe. But yeah, maybe this is probably just not a Phoenix card, right? At least not for now.
Can I tell you, my favourite thing about this card, though, is that it's very distinctly a little bit of a tower counter.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
One big guy, knock it in the face. They have to... I mean, inevitably, if you're playing towers, you're going to have straightens, but that's one of them you've taken out for one fate and not much influence.
Does this
province,
target...
right?
Yeah.
This card doesn't... It gets around Finger of Jade, right? It doesn't choose.
It says, after a character an opponent controls is ready, dash. No, it doesn't. It doesn't use the choose
So
word.
you can... if they got Finger of Jade,
That's
or
cool.
they
That
have
seems-
above question, you can still bow them, which is really nice.
Even though that's great, that's a shitty semantics, really, to be honest. That bugs me.
It's an annoying ambiguity. Well, it's not ambiguity. It's
But
just
I think
like a
it's a
weird
balancing
in the
thing,
rules,
though,
but
right?
it's
Now they're
good.
using it as a balancing thing.
It is.
But
It is.
can you imagine being a new player to this game and you play Finger of Jade on your Mitsu or whatever, and then someone plays this on him, you're like, no, you can't target him. And you go, oh, no, this doesn't have the word target on it or choose, so it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'd just hit that guy.
Right.
Like, that's bollocks.
But I think it's cool from a mechanical standpoint to have a distinction. I know it's more complex, right? Like it is annoying, but then you can do things like make a card like this. That's you could include the choose a character that has just stood, and nerf the card slightly. But they've chosen to go the other way and make it slightly more buff.
Yeah, I mean, it's very deliberate, and I like it. Okay, so we have Duel to the Death.
Oh,
A 1 cost
yes.
Crane event with 3 influence. Action. During a conflict, initiate a military duel. Your opponent may dishonor his or her character to refuse the duel, so we have a refusal condition. Otherwise, resolve the duel. Discard the duel's loser.
This is such a strong card.
I'm so hot for this, dude. It feels like an old 5R card. From
I don't like it.
the
It
art
does.
to the name to the refusal condition, which was a key facet of basically all the old 5R duels.
It's
It's
wonderful.
just it's a
wonderful.
throwback. It's powerful. It's what we need in the game is more targeted removal. One side effect of this that I guess is kind of unfortunate is that when you play this card, you want it to go off and you want it to be impactful. So you're encouraged to build a really big tower in a lot of ways to do it. But it is a card that can kill other towers, which we need more of. We need more ways to discourage players from building giant towers.
Like, if someone's got an enormous tower card, first of all, they're running... they're going to have counters, they're going to have Defend Your Honor, and they're going to have...
But they can only have so many,
Fingers.
right? This is another weapon. Like, if they refuse the duel, you can play Noble Sack. Or if they, you've got other ways to...
Or if they refuse the duel, you play another duel to the death.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the design of this card. I love that you can refuse it and get dishonored. That's super cool. I feel like it's empowering towers and Crane more, and neither of those things need it.
Well, I think it's empowering Crane Towers specifically. Because I think it discourages... Like, if you know that Crane's the best deck, it discourages you from
towers.
towering up.
How does it hurt towers? I don't understand.
You're much less...
Because it discards giant characters with 20
No,
attachments.
sorry,
on
I
them.
understand, but you've got to win that duel first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And towers are much more like they are the guys that are bully dueling you.
But if
most of
a
the time,
crane,
you
a
don't
crane
have a lot
tower
there.
can get as much or more skill than any other tower in the game.
I suppose you're only a bonsai away from being able to throw this down and
You
challenge.
use this on defense, so you first action bonsai, you cancel their bonsai, and then you just kill their guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And you
How
have
can I-
stuff like Daisho and Aijutsu Master to make it even easier to win the duel.
How about
And I do like the simple.
How about in defense of Rokugan, followed by a duel to the death?
Oh yeah,
Perfect.
do it.
Perfect. You've just made a deck. I love it. So the quote as well is Toshimoko saying, "So be it."
I just love this. I love everything about
I
this
like
card. I think it's well designed. So congrats to Tyler on a big hit. I think this card's going to be very, very annoying to play against and super satisfying to have in the environment overall.
Yeah.
All right. So we have soft skin. Somebody who is the picture appears to be someone with like a bucket putting some gross acid on his head. I'm not exactly
No,
sure.
I think so. First of all, the art in this card is the most hideous in the game, and it's fantastic. That thing on his head is not a bucket. The thing on his head is, I think, a hat.
And his skin's melting off.
He has been poisoned, and his skin has gone so soft that it's just melting off his face, which is
amazing.
The best. So good. Like, I would be so excited to drop this. I mean, it's another 2-cost poison, which kind of sucks.
So this card here, guys, this is the sort of card that Tyler includes as red herrings or traps in every pack for people like Glenn and Butters to froth over. So I'm super glad. I'm super glad
you don't even know.
got made.
Like, you don't even know. No, so this card, mate, if you throw this on a tower that's sticking around for 4 turns in a game, that's a third of your conflict deck has just been milled. And is it only once a turn? Or is this just every time?
Every time.
Every time.
Oh, that is so fucking good.
So you chuck that on like a crab character who's like fighting on Gaijin Customing's Steadfast Witcher hunting.
And then after they try to ready, then your fucking Earth becomes Skyrim. So
just so people actually know what this card is, it's a poison, so therefore it can be fetched. It's buffing Himatsu, so it can be fetched by Himatsu. Attached character cannot ready unless its controller discards the top 3 cards of his or her conflict. So I can imagine Glenn, aka Remedy, has a whole deck which we talked about on the last pod that was all around milling. So he must be in heaven.
I really wish this costed 1. I think if it costed 1, it could actually be like a force.
It would be vile.
Well, it's just anti-towers, right? If you're against the uni HMT, the guy doesn't care. It's like, I just won't ready this.
It's only 1 influence as well. Can I talk about for just a second how disgusting this is with Parrot Tanaka? You chuck it on your opponent's stuff and you're just drilling stuff off the top of your deck. And all the stuff that gets milled, you don't get back because Tanaka's on the table.
And you're like, come on, use your let go on this soft skin. Yep. I dare you.
It's just not okay.
It's, yeah. All right, so last preview in this Jumbo episode is the Arbiter of Authority, 2-cost character, 0 mil, 2 political, 2 glory. Courtier, duelist, some good traits there. Action, during a conflict, initiate a political duel. Dash, your opponent may dishonor his or her character to refuse the duel. Otherwise, resolve the duel. Bow and move the duel's loser home. It's a conflict character as well.
So that's the key. I think if this were Dynasty, it would just be pretty...
Conflict's real interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's a good effect. Like, he's weak, but you got to drop him in, give him... How do you boost him?
You have to play a fan on him or something, right?
Well, even that's not really going to...
Or just to honour him.
So, you know what, actually...
Crane have more and more ways of honouring characters,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, if you did a fan and an honour, then he's a 6, and that's going to do well. But I think, when you think about it, this and the duel to the death are the kind of things... The effects are significant enough that your opponent kind of has to consider bidding high if they're in any risk. Because that's like a Kanjo, right? Like, it's a bow and move home if you lose.
Yeah, it's like a Void Fist. It's, the thing is, it's an assassinatable body, it's got low stats. So I think that does balance the card well. I don't think it's going to be good enough to see a lot of play. Just, I think the big part of the reason is that with duels like this, you really want to be towering the character. So that you can win the duels without having to risk any honor. Because if you have to pump...
But you don't think, like, just a simple, like, honouring effect on this guy? Like, just have...
So then my reply would just be, well, why not just play the send home event that costs 0, that you just have to have an honoured courtier, and then you can tower up a bigger guy and play a better card.
Sure. Yeah, agree. I think the try again tomorrow is a fantastic card. Cool. I think having another... I think I'm looking at this card, though, right, and thinking a few things. One, obviously, out of Crane, you can now run a lot of conflict courtier characters, and you can get to the point where I know that people complain that Scorpion don't really need to have a dynasty phase. Well, and part of the reason is HMT, but the real reason why they don't need to have a dynasty phase is because they've got they've got access to absolutely fantastic conflict characters, right? And they've got a lot of control. So now, like, each of the clans is getting to the point where they have access to heaps and heaps of pretty good conflict characters, and so this Crane, I feel like now Crane are getting to that point. Also, like, for people looking to splash, I think at some point, different clans like the idea of being able to splash a courtier conflict character, and Steward of Law is obviously your key go-to character, but having access to a bunch of courtiers from a particular splash could enable some pretty funky decks down the track.
Yeah.
I think the keywords are a key part of the value of this. I think he will see through. Maybe not strictly for his ability, it's just a nice kicker, but the fact he's a courtier and a duelist fits really well in the new trained dueling archetype you're seeing out there. We can just trigger all the keywords. He gets all the cool stuff, he's got a built-in duel. It may not work all the time, but I think he'll do okay.
I think Crane have got a pretty stacked conflict character section of their deck, and they have since core, really, because Political Rival and Steward of Law were both so great for so long. So, I mean, I could certainly see him. I think I'd probably rather play Fumiki, but maybe in the really hardline dual version, you play him. I don't know. Cool art, though.
Yeah. Cool. All right, then. Well, that is the end of the previews there. This episode is much larger than our usual episode. Huge jumbo episode for the roller fans out there. Before we head off, we do have a very exciting announcement on our next HCR podcast. One might say it might be the biggest announcement we've ever had on the podcast, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, has anybody got anything else they would like to add? Any final thoughts, shout-outs?
If anybody out there in FFG land has any pull at all with FFGOP, please push for our CotE date in Australia and get us a game. We desperately need some motion.
I would say,
wait,
go and read that masterpiece guide on strategy by Butters, The 5 Phases of Failure. I mean, it's just genius, and brush up on your strategy, boys and girls, and get better at the game.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and until next time, keep on rolling.